What is up, everyone? Welcome to the video. I hope you guys are doing well. Today I want to do a bit of a chill kind of sit down video, and I wanted to react to two different pieces of media that CrossFit released. One is a video with Dani Speegle. I've been wanting to talk about her for quite a while now on this channel. She has actually been a huge inspiration to me and has really made me feel a lot better in my body, and I know she has definitely had that impact on so many women in the CrossFit space and probably even outside of the CrossFit space. So we're going to do a little bit of a reaction to the video that they released. I'm going to have that link down below as well as the article that we're going to also talk about. But the video, Dani kind of talks about the food that she intakes and how she kind of trains, and I just thought we could maybe talk about those things, react to it a little bit, because I want to share kind of my thoughts and feelings on Dani Speegle. And then after, I want to react to an article that CrossFit released as well. It actually does touch on Dani Speegle a little bit in that article as well, and it's on a topic that I'm pretty passionate about. I talk a lot about this topic on my TikTok page. It's really one of my main concentrations on there because it is something that I just think that so many more people need to talk about, and it needs to be normalized a lot more. So without further ado, let's get into talking about these pieces of media. It's about a 5-minute video. Like I said, it's going to be linked down below, and it's just all about Dani Speegle and how she's kind of going in the CrossFit space.
You know, I used to go to sleep, and if I had gone over my carbs by 2 grams, I was sitting there and I was like, oh gosh, today wasn't a good day.
So I really like this because this is something that needs to be talked about quite a bit, especially when it comes to women and their diets. Very often, I'm going to speak more from a woman's perspective because that is more what I can speak on. I can't really talk more from a male's perspective, obviously, but it's nice to see her be open about that, because a lot of people say if you want to be a CrossFit Games athlete or if you want to be serious, you need to eat a strict diet, you need to eat like this, and she's very open that eating strict and restricting and all those things just weren't good for her mental health.
And I just realized that I didn't want to be so focused on food and have it connect so just intimately with my happiness.
I know so many women can relate to this, even myself. I was very much like that. If I went over a carb or if I went over a certain amount of calories within the day, it used to just make me set me off, and I used to feel so bad, and it really put me into this really bad eating disorder. And it's just it's almost reassuring and feels good to just see that someone who's a CrossFit Games athlete, she does eat a clean diet, don't get me wrong, she does eat a clean diet. She's not so consumed with every little thing that she's putting in her body, and that she can have days where she's not fully eating perfect, and she's going to be okay with that.
Wanted to still be healthy, I still wanted to compete in CrossFit, but I found that if I went too far on one side, it wasn't serving me holistically.
And that she's approaching her nutrition in a more whole way, which I think a lot of us need to start approaching our nutrition like that, just because if we start focusing on so many little things, we become very zoned in on that, and then we can't see outside of it and what outside of it's doing for us. So I really like that she's sharing how she approaches food, because no matter what, each CrossFit Games athlete or CrossFit athlete is going to approach food in a much different way. And then after, she says it's constantly an educational process, it's constantly a journey, which I 100% agree with. I think when it comes to health and fitness, it is such a journey to our own things. Our own journey is going to be so personalized to us, and it's important that we try things, that we are always researching and seeing what works for us and our bodies, what form of exercise works best for us, what makes us happy, what works for our mental health. Same thing when it comes to food. One diet might work for one person, another diet might work for another person. It's all about trying these different things and seeing what works for you, what helps you with overall life balance of having good mental health, that you're not going to be eating a diet that's going to be affecting your mental health. You want to have a diet that's going to be balanced enough, that's going to be okay with your mental health, and that also is making you feel good when you want to work out, when you want to move your body and all those things. It's trying to find that balance overall. And you're never going to find a person who's going to be like, this is the way you need to eat and this is the only way you need to eat and move your body and all those things. It's no, it doesn't always work like that for every single person. It might work for a couple people, but it's not going to work for everyone. They continue to show a couple clips of her at the CrossFit Games, of how just dominant she was in a lot of the stronger events, which honestly, watching back some of that footage, it just shows how strong and how much ability this woman has and how much strength this woman has within her body. And they show obviously her dominating the sandbag clean ladder event. That is just so special, and it's nice to see her on top of that. She is a strong girl and she deserves to have that recognition.
It's just no secret that some of the lighter athletes don't struggle as much, but then again, you know, I'm one of the stronger athletes.
She continues to talk about how she kind of struggles a little bit, obviously, because she's a heavier athlete in more of like the gymnastics, cardio movements like that, which I think a lot of women who do struggle in that area when it comes to CrossFit, like myself. I'm not good in a lot of cardiovascular gymnastics, body weight stuff, but when it comes to weightlifting, I absolutely crush it. So I do feel that. I feel that when I'm in the gym and I see a lot of other girls who are more lighter athletes tend to get a lot of gymnastics moves easier. They tend to flow through those workouts a lot easier. Whereas myself, I feel like I'm always a little bit behind because I can't just dominate at those movements. So I'm always trying to find that perfect balance. I'm always trying to be like, okay, I know I can work on weightlifting, but at the same time, if I put in more effort to my gymnastics or cardio, maybe I'll be able to balance myself out overall. Maybe I won't fall behind when it comes to a cardio body weight workout. And I know so many women can probably relate to this so much because of the struggles when you're a heavier athlete, and it's harder to try and find that overall balance. Especially Dani, she's a CrossFit Games athlete and she's competing against lighter athletes. She really needs to start leveling that out a lot more because she is so dominant when it comes to strength. But the problem with CrossFit, obviously, well, not the problem, but the thing with CrossFit, if you're a CrossFit Games athlete, obviously you need to try and find that balance, and that's what it is when it comes to going on top, is finding the balance overall, which isn't always easy. She continues to talk about nutrition and how she sometimes needs to cut down when it comes to a competition, and that she needs to try and find that balance of going on a little bit of a cut and still having that energy when working out, which that's not easy to find a balance for, especially if you're cutting, especially if you're trying to lose a little bit of weight, so that it becomes easier when you're doing a lot of cardiovascular movements or endurance movements. Because if you're obviously lighter, if you're like, let's say she needs to lose 10, I'm just saying, lose 10 pounds, it's going to be easier when it comes to doing cardio events or gymnastics movements or body weight movements. And she wants to be able to still be able to maintain that strength even though she's on a cut. So it's trying to find that balance. I mean, at the same time, I'm sure a lot of CrossFit athletes deal with this, and they definitely try and find that balance as best as they can. And I know for sure it's definitely not easy to find that balance. It's all about trial and error at the end of the day.
I am humbled every single day by how many times women reach out and say that I've been a positive influence to them on their body positivity, their self-love, their confidence.
So then she continues on about how she has been humbled by how many women have kind of shared how much she has inspired them and made them feel more confident in their bodies. And I'm honestly really grateful for that. I know Dani's not going out there, you know, being like body positive, everything. No, she's just like showing people like, this is what my body looks like, this is who I am, and this is what I do, and I can be a badass woman lifting insane weights, and you can too. Also, she has the shirt, Girls Who Eat, which is nice because, you know, a lot of times when it comes to health and fitness, women especially are told like you need to restrict, you need to eat less, this and this and this, whereas Dani's kind of showing the other side of that, where it's like, no, you can have a donut, you can enjoy your food, and you can enjoy your pizza and still look at me, I'm a games athlete, I can lift heavy weights and I still enjoy it. So like I said before, it's all about finding that overall balance. If it's starting to get dark in here, I do apologize. The sun is starting to set and I'm trying to get this done before it gets completely dark out. Next, we're going to be reacting to an article that was written by Brittany Sailing, and it's CrossFit, Man Muscles, and the Feminine Ideal, which this is something I'm passionate about, and this is kind of relates to Dani Speegle because someone made a comment about Dani Speegle and her body. It seems like a lot of men like to make comments about her body, whether it's too big, it's too muscular, it's too sexy, she's showing it off, you know, I've heard it all about her body, and it drives me nuts because why do we need to make these comments about women's bodies? fucking ridiculous. So I'm gonna read portions of the article and we'll obviously react to it. I'll have the full article linked down below, of course. Okay, so it starts with, she literally has man muscles. The above comment left on a YouTube video featuring female CrossFit Games athletes, women completing feats of physical prowess and so grand and varied that their ability to accomplish them can mean only one thing, that they're really freaking fit. The last time I checked, fit wasn't synonymous to masculinity. They do make a statement down at the bottom that they're talking more about like the genders here, like male and female genders. Obviously there's more things that go into that, but they're basically talking about the two things when it comes to sports is the female and the male gender. The CrossFit methodology is rooted in science. We say someone is not fit based on how they look, but based on performance that is measurable, observable, and repeatable. So this is something that I find is so important, and I've talked about many times before. I've talked about it on my podcast and on my TikTok, is that you don't know what someone's ability is when it comes to their body just based on appearance. Like, a lot of women are strong as fuck and they don't necessarily look strong as fuck. And that's when it comes down to CrossFit, is that CrossFit's all about how can your body perform rather than what it looks like. Okay, standards of beauty, which historically is how society has gauged femininity, which is true, on the other hand, are based on societal constructs, even true. So she continues on to say thin as a standard for the feminine ideal is only really came from the 19th century, which is true. We see that in history, is that when the 19th century came about, we were all focused on thinness being associated with femininity. Same with, like, if a guy was too thin, they would say he's too feminine. And I've heard that time and time again, which is fucking ridiculous. The article continues that feminine ideal continue to evolve, favoring plumpier figures at times and slimmer ones at others, which we can see in recent history how the body has kind of, or the ideal of a woman's body has kind of evolved over time. We had more, like in the earlier 2000s, it was very slim runway model, and now we're into like the skinny waist and the big butt. So it is changing, it's always changing, in my opinion. And then she said, but it wasn't until 1920s that the rise of the flapper era that thinness became prized overall else in women, enticing the epidemic of eating disorders, which is something that is huge and is talked about. I just said, like, even though we kind of still change body standards throughout the society of like what is seen as perfect, at the same time, all the bodies that we've seen in recent history for ourselves, like I just discussed how in the early 2000s it was like runway model, and now it's like skinny waist and big butt. It's still, you still need to be thin. You still need to be skinny to be considered feminine. And if you aren't looking like this, then you need to look like that. And the way to look like that is by your eating. And if you're not eating properly or you're eating too much, then you need to start cutting. And this is what has created so many different eating disorders, and it fucking sucks that we struggle with that still to this day. So she continues, I write all that merely to point out that the feminine ideal has A, never remained constant, and B, only has ever been a matter of opinion. So what about science? Our commentator argues that female CrossFit Games athlete has man muscles. Her first instinct was to ask them to tell them the difference between male and female muscles, but then wondered, is there a difference between actual female and male muscle tissue? Then she continues to talk about the difference between male and female and the muscle growth, and how obviously men can grow muscles much easier, and women, their bodies tend to hold on to fat more, and it's a bit more of a slower growth when it comes to muscles. And then she continues to say, so even if there is a difference, the difference between male and female muscle tissue is inconsequential. So even though we grow differently, there's still no difference between male muscles and female muscles. We all have the same muscle fibers. So therefore, I can only assume man muscle refers to the volume and definition, which is true. So this commenter is saying, yeah, she has man muscles because she's able to have more volume of it and more definition of it. And then she continues on to say, apparently a woman shouldn't have too much muscle mass, and what she has in muscle mass definitely shouldn't be visible. Apparently to men, this is what we should not have. Which is ridiculous, because why are we commenting on women's bodies? It's none of your fucking business. She continues to say that one shouldn't drink bleach. as the natural consequence of that action is stomach erosion. But the natural consequence of CrossFit training, question mark, increased work capacity across a broad time and modal domains. Pursuing this goal is pursuing fitness, and aiming to maintain your work capacity over your lifetime is pursuing health, which is true. And then also, no matter the work that you put in with your nutrition or what you're doing with your body, how you're moving your body, it's all the same regardless of sex. So she continues to say, if training and nutrition regimen increases one's health, prolongs one's natural lifespan and quality of life, dare I declare this is a universal positive outcome, which is true. We must assume that the accompanying adaptations are also positive. The healthiest version of a biological male, he can move large loads, long distances quickly, and he can do so in old age. The healthiest version of a biological female, she can move large loads, long distances quickly, and can also do so in old age. Put it another way, women of the CrossFit Games, in all of their chiseled glory, can be nothing but a natural expression of biological femininity, one expressing among many. She continues to say, put it another way, the women of the CrossFit Games, in all their chiseled glory, can be nothing but a natural expression of the biological femininity. So yes, women can work out in the gym, they can lift things, they can work hard in the gym, eat properly, do what's good for their body, make their bodies feel good, and at the end of the day, they're still going to be able to do things that men can do. And they're going to be able to have muscles just like men. She continues to say, if you don't like it, if you think women shouldn't be muscular, I challenge you to ask yourself why you'd prefer women to limit their capacities and therefore their health. So women having muscles isn't bad for us. It's good for us. We're able to live longer. We're able to do things for ourselves. If we want to pick up something, we can pick up something. We don't need to rely on a man to pick something up for us. Come on, we're 2023, what are we doing? And I really like that final statement. I'm gonna say it again. If you don't like it, if you think women shouldn't be muscular, I challenge you to ask yourself why you prefer women to limit their capacities. So what that commenter was kind of referring to is that you're asking women to be thinner, you're asking women to be smaller and not be healthier. So just because you don't like what muscles look like on women, that we should make ourselves less than, and that we should eat less, and that we should not reach our full potential just because you think that we don't look feminine enough because we have muscles. And honestly, I would really like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I know a lot of guys have opinions on this. I've been told many times again on TikTok that I'm not feminine because I have muscles, which is fucking ridiculous. However, I do see a little bit of a change, and that notion of like muscular women and how that's not feminine is starting to kind of disappear a little bit. It still is pretty prevalent, but over the past couple years, I've noticed that it has become more normalized, I guess, to have strong girls. There's a lot of girls going into the gyms and actually going into the weight sections. I love to see it all the time. I see it all over TikTok, girls lifting insane amounts of weights and being muscular, and that it's just becoming a little bit more normalized, but obviously it's not completely normalized, and a lot of men don't think women should be lifting heavy, or a lot of men think that if women start lifting heavy, they're gonna look too muscular, which that is definitely not the case. We're slowly getting rid of this idea where in the early 2000s, I definitely thought like this, that society really pushed to us that if we started working out and lifting too many weights and we started lifting heavy weights, that we would start looking like pro bodybuilders who are on steroids and are very, very muscular, which that is not even the case. I mean, CrossFit Games athletes, they're on a totally different level than most of us regular old people out there. They definitely have to have way more muscle mass because they're competing to be stronger and fitter. And I mean, for a regular person too, we are allowed to be stronger and fitter and lift weights and enjoy lifting weights and have muscles and be proud of our muscles. Like, as a woman, we should be proud of our muscles. We should be proud that we can lift insane amounts of weights just like any other guy can too. And you know what? We can do that too, well, being on our periods as well. I know that's probably TMI right now, but you know what? Fuck that. I was lifting some weight this week and I was on my period and I was like, you know what? This is fucking empowering that I could literally bleed from my body and still lift heavy weights. That's incredible. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. I would love to hear your opinions in the comments down below. Obviously, please be respectful. And yes, also I forgot to mention, I'm having 30% off on my entire website. So if you wanna check it out, my ebooks, my merch, if you wanna check all that out, it is in the description down below. Just use the code BDAY, like B and then the word day, 30, put that in the checkout and you get 30% off your purchase. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to be unstoppable and yeah, bye guys.